Hey everyone, and welcome to another session of Huddle in Place with the Nine-Sided Circle. I believe we are on episode 37?
37?
37, and it is May 2nd. It's my friend's birthday. Happy birthday, Mia. So I am one of your hosts. I am Noor Kyle. I am in Los Angeles, and I am wearing an apron because I am cleaning today. Yay! And Mushtaq, tell us about what's up with you.
I'm Mushtaq, the other host, or the faithful sidekick of the host, as I like to think of it.
Yeah.
And I am in the Bay Area most of the time, though sometimes I end up in Canyonlands or other places in the Southwest, especially right now because I get lonesome for that shit.
Yeah.
And I can't just hop in a car and drive out there right now.
Nope. But I'm glad you can bring it to us through these pretty awesome pictures you've been posting behind you.
I do my best.
Yeah. So, how are you? What's going on where you are?
Well, things are fairly good around here. There was a brush fire in the area earlier today, but I think they got that under control. So we aren't going to be seeing a raging fire in the mountains, I hope, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Several people have decided, since the streets are empty, that it's their own personal drag strips around here, and that's getting a little wearing.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to kill themselves or somebody else.
Risky stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm enjoying my fortress of solitude here.
Fortress of Solitude.
Yes, like Superman.
Yeah.
Only warmer.
So, yeah, not much going on here. Relatedly, we had a fire in my neighborhood last night, I believe. There were 3 fire trucks involved, which is a lot considering. And I didn't want to rubberneck too much, so I was just peeping out the window, and I have no idea what the story is there, but I'm hoping everyone's all right. Other than that, lots of protests about huddling in place going on. They closed the beaches along much of the coast in my area, and people are not psyched about that. I think it's very emblematic for the people who feel that we should be opening up already to have those closed, and yeah, they're not happy about it.
Yep, but they're also not responsible enough to keep proper social distance or use masks or any of that kind of stuff.
That's the thing. You know, there's something to be said about the importance of protesting in American culture. That's absolutely the case. But these people are absolutely, at the same time, making poor choices, putting themselves at risk, being in such loud crowds, large crowds rather, where they're all standing very close together and they're not using proper protection. I mean, this is not going to go well.
No, but you know, that's the nature of this thing. We deal with a species that is fundamentally incapable of choosing long-term success over short-term gratification.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the reasons that we are in the position that we are in of shitting in our own nests on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's not that way everywhere. I mean, the Swedes didn't close anything, and their incidence of coronavirus was higher than Norway or Denmark or Finland, which did close things, but not completely over the top. And the reason is that they were responsible enough to do the other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about the qualities of a particular culture.
Yeah.
And whether or not people feel a sense of not only personal responsibility, but like community responsibility and trust.
Yeah, as opposed to entitlement.
Yes, exactly. And I think here, unfortunately, we do not share that sense of trust in the community and in each other, and instead we do tend to operate more from a place of entitlement. That is something that is a norm here, and that makes the situation extremely challenging.
Yep.
So with that said, yeah, let's hop on to our topic today. We wanted to touch on the reality many of us are experiencing right now of being alone with our own thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah. What would you like to touch on in that regard today?
That for people who do not have any ability to deal with their thoughts, this is a very uncomfortable position. This is why things like isolation and solitary confinement and stuff can be so brutal, because people are not capable of being alone with themselves.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's when this happens and you don't have the skills to deal with it, you start getting really interesting phenomena like depression, suicidal ideation, things like that, or lots of anger and insistence that you get to come out of your isolation no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like what's going on now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I'm thinking about when I talk about protests and stuff right now, because we know much of that is coming from a place of being fed up, being at a breaking point.
Yeah. People are sitting at home going, I'm bored and I don't know what to do with myself. And I have all of these thoughts that I usually distract myself from. And my distractions are not in place.
Yeah.
My reality tunnel is beginning to disintegrate because it's not being reinforced by the people who I usually hang out with.
Yeah.
And people get a little crazy.
So what can that, we don't have to get into extreme specifics, but for the everyday person, what might that look like?
That might look like doing your favorite cosplay and going outside and jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might look like that. I mean,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, the guys in Michigan with the guns and the bulletproof vests and all of this stuff are just a particular kind of cosplayer.
Okay. Yeah.
And they can only be comfortable around people who will reinforce their beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And so you let these guys get alone for a while and they will go crazy.
Okay. So it sounds like one way, it manifests as a kind of insecurity inside yourself that can show up in ways that we're not necessarily used to or expecting or that aren't obvious, because you're not getting that feedback that makes you feel like you're doing or thinking the right things.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting that reinforcement, as it were.
Yeah, and I pick on the militia guys because they're such easy targets.
Yeah.
But this is true for all manner of different groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of people just do not have the coping skills to deal with isolation.
So,
By the way, there's a test to see if you have the coping skills, which is when you are alone, how long does it take you to get bored? That
Yeah.
gives you a really good metric for your coping skills with isolation.
Okay.
If you have to just sit there and do nothing, say internet has gone down, you don't feel like reading a book, how long does it take you to get bored?
I mean, I will definitely complain in short time, but I can handle it. but I don't know if I could handle it for weeks at a time without resources such as the internet and all that stuff. Yeah. So,
Well, actually, for you, you could. You just have never been put in a position where you had to.
yes, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of these days soon, you're going to get your first chili.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Say more.
a 40-day retreat.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think everyone should probably do that at least
Once in their
once.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the khalwat.
I
The,
think that can be an extremely valuable
yep.
experience.
But you have to kind of build up to it.
Right. And I
You
think
know,
that's fair.
a day of meditation without external stimuli is beyond what most people can do.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to start small.
Yeah.
You know, when you can achieve an hour without external stimuli, just being present with yourself, and not slipping off into boredom or fantasy or daydream or any of the other kind of stuff that
Yeah.
tends to happen, then you can start building up from that. Getting up to an hour is beyond most people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the real reason that most of these folks are out protesting, whatever their political bent, is because they don't know how to deal with their own selves.
Yeah. We did a little bit of prep for this talk, and you mentioned dopamine's role in
Ah,
this
yes,
phenomenon.
that's in why these affinity groups like the militia guys or the social justice guys or whichever group is out there protesting at any given time, why they need each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because when you have a belief and it gets reinforced by something external,
Mm-hmm.
then you get a little dopamine hit.
Yeah.
You feel good. When you're going, Obama sucks, and somebody else goes, yeah, Obama sucks, you're right. You get a dopamine hit. You go, Obama sucks, yes.
Yeah.
And
It's reaffirming
yeah,
in a potentially toxic sort of way.
well, eventually it has to be toxic because repeated dopamine hits damage the receptor.
Mm.
The dopamine receptors are not meant to be stimulated all the time.
Yeah.
And this is why drug addicts, for instance, need more and more to achieve the same high.
Yeah. So, yeah, when you lose that sense of being surrounded by people who are going to give you those dopamine hits, that's when you end up in these situations where people are just kind of frantic, right?
Yep, and you get crazier and crazier behavior. Instead of getting the hit from your close affinity group, you go out on the internet looking for the same hit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
And
that
that's
can
how,
give, yeah,
yeah.
that's a rabbit hole that most people do not want to go down.
Well, no, but I think we see it on a regular basis when we witness the development of echo chambers
Yeah, and
and
the
the
development
policing.
of dangerous exotoxic situations like the QAnon people. I mean,
Mm.
another person from that group was just arrested on her way to Washington, D.C. to assassinate Biden and Clinton.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they are pedophile cannibals.
Mm-mm. I'm not even
Yeah,
gonna.
and that's some crazy shit.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we also talked about how this way of behaving is very mechanical. It is.
Yeah, it is purely stimulus response. There is no higher order thinking involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is true not just for the right-wing dickheads you mostly hear about today, but it's also true for the left-wing dickheads.
Yeah. And that's just talking about like the most visible
Yeah.
examples, but in essence, we've all experienced this to some degree.
Yep. Oh yes, we all have. We don't want to admit it, especially if we're me, but we have all experienced this,
Yeah,
and rooting it out is really important.
it is. Yeah. So, what can that look like?
That can look like, first and foremost, uh, at the risk of sounding a little bit too new agey, developing a mindfulness practice.
Yeah.
You need to learn to meditate in such a way that you're not just doing it when you're sitting, but you're doing it throughout your day, moving, walking, driving the car, and not zoning out meditation, being present in the here and now meditation.
Mm, yeah.
This is the only antidote I know to this, or at least the first step in antidoting it.
So, yeah, I don't want to put a lot on you in this tiny little talk, but I'm actually curious to see how, let's say we're alone and we're struggling, knowing that we're having thoughts that are mechanical. How can this mindfulness come into play in a scenario like that?
Well, the first step, and you may have heard me say this before, the first step is Hoshtadam, watch
Mhm.
your breath, breathe consciously, mindfulness on breathing. That's the very first step.
Yeah.
And so a simple breath practice will go a long way. I mean, if I'm sitting in, say, a doctor's office waiting for my appointment and I know it's going to be a while, I will just sit there and practice my breath. And it freaks people out because you get very still, right? And I do it with my eyes open. I don't try and zone out and go away because I want to take in all of the visual stimulus as well. And I'll just sit there being very, very still, watching my breath. And then somebody will call my name and I'll leap up and they'll go,
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess in those moments where you feel yourself reacting, right?
mm-hmm.
You turn to the breath, and that's a way to not, deny, but just disengage from the reaction.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can keep the experience without the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
What fun.
Yeah. And at a time like this, when we're all having our points where we snap, because this is an intense experience. It's very challenging, no matter how spiritually woke we are. So it's, yeah, like finding those skills we can use to disengage from those reactive moments in a way that is still affirming the experience, but not enabling us to behave in destructive ways. That's really important. So I think with that said, yeah, I feel like we've covered some interesting stuff in this little chat that usually we only have take like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that pretty much covers what I want to have to say.
Yeah.
If you find that you would like to be able to live with your own self without being constantly distracted, take up a practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what I got to say.
And there's definitely a lot going on where people may feel that they don't have the bandwidth to do this. And of course, we all have a lot of stuff on our plate, but maybe you are struggling with the most basic of things.
Yes. But the reason that we don't have the bandwidth to do this is
Yeah.
because all of our bandwidth is taken up with these thought loops.
Yes, which is where I was going with
Yeah.
this, in that it will allow us to have a little bit more flexibility to
Yep.
deal with these difficult things.
Yeah. Turn off a loop even for 15 minutes and you got that much conscious time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
So
there
hopefully
you
we
go.
have entertained you, maybe given you some food for thought, maybe pissed you off, whatever. Comment below if you'd like.
Yep.
And we will see you day after tomorrow.
Yep. On our daily talks. And tomorrow is Sunday when we do our talks within the nine-sided circle, our more extended group talks. And if you'd like to join us, you can look at the stuff below. You'll have links to our mailing list and our Facebook group and all that stuff. That's how you gain access to those talks,
Yep.
should you be interested. So
Yeah. And if you want to get into our Facebook group, answer the questions, because I won't let you in without you answering the questions.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
saying.
you gotta be proactive. We want proactive participants. Yep. So thank you so much, as always. Take good care of yourselves and those you love, and stay well.
Bye.